All right, hey YouTube, how you doing? It's Max. This video is going to be very experimental. Um, Pretty much, I just made myself lunch. I made this pizza. Um, I make my pizza from scratch usually. Either that or I get DiGiorno. Sometimes I get other pizza from places, but this time I just made it from scratch. Pretty easy to do. Once you've made one, you can make it again pretty fast. I might put a recipe link in the description. I don't know. But I'm getting off topic. I did not come up with any script for this episode. Usually I come up with a script. Today I just didn't really feel like making a script. I just felt like, I'll open up some documents and kind of talk about it. I feel like it's just a lot of stuff to talk about with this topic. This topic is the Manheim Academy. And this is similar to the Tira kind of history, has been something I've kind of been working off and on with since high school, I want to say. So, yeah, it is a lot to cover. I don't know if I'm going to cover it all, but I feel like this is a topic where it's better to just kind of show you than to just kind of talk about it. So, this whole concept of the Manheim Academy was inspired by when I was reading Harry Potter, and Harry Potter is the kind of iconic magic school of our generation, with the four houses and whatnot. Um, Very British, and there were some things that now that I'm older, I kind of recognize the things I didn't like about Harry Potter with a little bit more nuance. But there were some things about Harry Potter that I just wanted to change, I guess, when I was growing up with it. And I kind of wanted to make it my own, and that's kind of just like my personality, I guess. I like see something and I want to like make it my own. And so there were a lot of elements that you'll see that are very inspired by Harry Potter, and then I'll kind of talk about some other inspirations that I've had. But essentially, it's a magic school. There's still four houses. Um, but what I think some of the major differences here is that I really wanted it to be a little bit more Americanized, but also it's over the years been inspired by Dungeons and Dragons quite a bit. So this image in front of you, this was a map I made a couple years ago for the Manheim Academy, and pretty much you can see I used the app or a program called Incarnate that you can. I'll probably link that in the description as well. You can make your own maps, but there's four kind of houses that you'll notice here, and I'll go into those a little bit more depth. But I had four houses. I really wanted it to be kind of like an open campus instead of it being in a castle. So what I was kind of saying, similar to like the Americanized schools where there's like a campus, and this was probably in high school. I started making this. I was really looking forward to going to college, and then even when I was in college, kind of taking some ideas from college to help influence this concept a bit more. But what I it was the four kind of campuses, and then there was a dining hall in the middle. I had this East Campus area with a dueling arena. And I had like my first video game that I published was actually just strictly about the dueling arena, where you just kind of like duel. And that was kind of a combat tester game. And then I had, the administration building with the library. There was a graveyard area, and then a community gardens in the south. A lighthouse. I didn't never really did a whole lot with a lighthouse. A marketplace where you could buy stuff, kind of like a school store mixed with like a D&D market. And there were these different gates. So you had the west gate, you had the east gate, you had the south gate down here, kind of where the gardens are. And there was a forest, there was a cave, these other places, these roads to go to the main city. And I was also kind of inspired by this like Venice kind of thing where there were like canals. I really like the idea of canals. Um, so that was sort of an inspiration as well. And then there were all these kind of like openings to a sewer system that there would be other kind of events that occurred in the sewer system as well. So over the years, this is I guess a good image of what I kind of was going for a long time regarding this kind of campus. I have another map down here. I think I only have these two for the Manheim Academy. But as you can see in this one, there was this book for D&D that came out called, man, I forget what it's called. I think it's Strixhaven's Academy or something. And so in Strixhaven's Academy, this was actually very recent. This was the end of 2021, early 2022 kind of thing. So this was just a concept I was kind of playing with because of that, but I wouldn't say this is the original concept. I even called it like the Manaheim University to differentiate it from the Manaheim Academy, just because this one had 5 houses or campuses instead of the 4 that it normally has. I added this Silver Squid campus. Um, and pretty much what I really liked about Strixhaven was that it had these elements of kind of each campus was based off a like a study. So you had like the School of Mathematics, the School of Sciences, the School of History, the School of Communication, and the School of Arts. So I was kind of playing with my preconceived idea of these 4 houses and added a 5th one and kind of tried to change them. I do like the concept in nature of having it based off of like real school systems. And that's, I think, part of the fantasy that I was trying to go for to kind of Americanize it in a way. But I think there's all this kind of sentiments of having these 4 houses and what they kind of stand for, that adding a 5th one kind of disturbed that a little bit. So I don't know if, like I said, this is kind of a project that I've stopped working on, but I feel like it's something that I, work on and off. So I'll probably pick it up again. But I'll go ahead and talk about these 4 houses real quick. So I have another kind of thing here. And these are kind of images that I've, they exist. I didn't make my own images there from other things. But this was me trying to kind of create this kind of, uh, this, I guess, a PDF just to kind of share it with people. I feel like it's probably not as accurate as it, um it I don't know how well it holds up, but essentially what I kind of did was I really wanted the houses to be not all good or not all bad, kind of like in Harry Potter where Slytherins are like all evil and Gryffindors are all good. I wanted to kind of add a little bit more nuance to it. So I guess what you could call the Gryffindor equivalent is this Azure Bear house. And really, what an Azure Bear kind of is a very community-driven student. So these are all kind of loosely inspired by the Myers-Briggs in a way. So the Azure Bears would be like your ESTJs, your ESFJs, your ISFJs, and your ISTJs. So they're all very S and J, and J being S and J being kind of like the main kind of factors. So they're very they follow the rules. They expect others to follow the rules. They're, as you can see down here, they're a bit organized. So you're organized students, you're overachiever kind of students, hardworking students, loyal students, and very morally guided. So all these good traits, but then I wanted to also include some like negative traits as well to sort of balance it out. And I have this for like all of them. So your Azure Bears might often be more judgmental. They might be overly concerned with status, so they might be trying to participate in certain clubs or activities to sort of kind of get a popularity status. Sorry, and this is kind of like one of the things, like if I were to make a game, I kind of wanted some students, like all the NPCs that you'd interact with would be like other students or teachers. And so like these could be like some personality traits to give to these kind of students to help frame the houses a bit better. And they might be a little bit reluctant to change, uncomfortable with the abnormal. And I didn't include this in here, but um I was also kind of thinking about like how each of these wouldn't just be houses, but they'd be like learning communities. So in a sense, learning communities that kind of cater to the individual students, like how they best learn. So I was thinking like for Azure Bears, you could have them be like very motivated by you know like there would be like a no cheating, no tolerance policy for cheating. Whereas with the Crimson Tigers, who I'll talk about in a little bit, instead of there being a zero tolerance policy for cheating, maybe the or the Crimson Tigers are more along the lines of like, if you get people to copy off your work because you produce such good work, then you get like extra credit or something. Um, and I know that sounds kind of weird, but like just kind of these like different theories of of not cheating, but the different theories of teaching, where like, in our kind of society we're very um, no cheating policy. But like when you go into the real world, like if you're making YouTube videos or something, and you are using other people's content, you usually have to accredit them, or even when you're doing research, you accredit other people's like stuff that they've produced. So this would kind of encourage this kind of mentality for Crimson Tigers would encourage them to be not just like rule followers, but to be like um, you know people who are like influencers in a way, or like they I don't know if I'm making sense, but anyway, pretty much the Crimson Tigers would be your INTJs, your INTPs, your ENTJs, and your ENTPs, and they'd pretty much be these uh, very results oriented. Often, as the Azure Bears are very morally guided, the Crimson Tigers are very results oriented, and they're very strategic and analytical, and independent. And because of these kind of traits, they can often become more arrogant or argumentative, insensitive, not very in tune with their emotions, that kind of stuff. Going into the Golden Eagles, we've got more freedom, people who need to spread their wings, and like very hands-on experimental types. So they don't really like planning very much, but they are very good in a pinch situation. So if you're under pressure, a golden eagle might be the best fit for the job. These would be your ISTPs, your ISFPs, your ESTPs, and your ESFPs in terms of Meyer Briggs. And so they can be a bit risk prone, and unwilling to stick to a plan, kind of thing. They might get bored easily. So that's the Golden Eagles, and then you have your Verdant Deer, which are pretty much these your ENTPs, I mean not your ENTPs, your ENFPs, your ENFJs, your INFJs, and your INFPs, and they are kind of like your altruistic kind of student who wants to change the world for the better. They're very friendly, they're very generous, they're very open-minded, very similar to the Azure Bears. They're very morally guided, but they can often be burnt out because they can't change, like they need like more people in order to change the world. It's hard for them to do it all on their own. They can be self-critical because they're not doing a whole lot, sensitive to burnout, that kind of stuff. And then these kind of population statistics. I was looking up some statistics for how many people fit into each Myers-Briggs category, and so I really wanted to reflect that in like the overall student population, if I were to ever make a game. So 40% of all students would be Azure Bears, whereas only 10% would be Crimson Tigers. So those kind of little details I wanted to incorporate into the world. Um, I'll go into this OneNote. So OneNote is something that I used to kind of um, use a lot of. So this is my kind of OneNote from early 2022. As you can see, like I created this document in January 1st, 2022. And I have all these little topics up here, and this is kind of like I transitioned to YouTube a few months ago, so this is like kind of like some old history we're looking into right now. But pretty much I used to always write down these notes. So these are kind of my notes after I kind of made my last game, based on the Strixhaven kind of stuff for D&D. But pretty much I was trying to see how I could use the like D&D concept to kind of evolve this concept of a place, so to speak. So like I said earlier, like having the five kind of history, math, art, communication, and science as like a house, but then I was also like playing with the idea of like what if there was like a general education. So going back to that image, like this main campus here would be kind of like home to a lot of general education facilities. um and then like as a tabletop concept, I was like kind of coming up with certain rules for like players, and then like what was the purpose. This is just kind of like half baked, kind of like a lot of my videos, but I was just kind of playing with some ideas. um and like this is a lot more fleshed out kind of stuff that I was kind of following, so I like was making charts for like your level ups, and I was thinking maybe you only go up to level 10 because in the game it was only up to level 10, so I was like kind of recreating my own system, similar to like what I was talking about with Harry Potter. Like I was inspired to create like a Hogwarts, but kind of make it my own. And then reading this book, I was kind of inspired by the Strixhaven book, but to kind of make it my own. So I'm like recording like prices of everything and damage and stuff. And this is stuff I'll probably never ever play, but it's just like these is kind of like what I enjoy like doing. So like for the general studies, I called it eventually the independent archmages. And yeah, these are just kind of some rule sets, and I was gonna like link these, I think, to like certain curriculums, so you can kind of see like the Crimson Tiger curriculum. I have it highlighted, so I didn't actually ever link it, but I think that's what I was going with that. So here's just a list of like all the faculty and staff. Some of these have been characters for a long time, kind of thing. Like Chives Xavier was a character for a while. Professor Myrtle. Just like some of them are like pretty. I've had for a while, but then I kind of use those name generators. So I probably made a video in the past about like a name generator. I kind of use those to create some of these names for professors and just other faculty and staff. Like you see, like these people are like members of the church on campus. These are like dining hall people, just other administration, dual arena operations and maintenance. So just thinking about like what are the functionalities of like a university and who would need to, I guess, fill those roles. So just kind of that sort of stuff. These are some of the students that I've had. So I would come up with certain like classes like noble and commoner, and that was kind of inspired from Fire Emblem Three Houses. And then I've got their college, their gender, their name, the curriculum. So I was like coming up with these different curriculums that they could like study, and they would in turn learn new abilities or something like that. Especially if it's like a Dungeons and Dragons, like this would kind of be like equivalent to your class. And then jobs and clubs are also certain things that were inspired by the Strixhaven. So like, where do they work as a part-time job? Some of them are unemployed, some of them are employed, and then what kind of clubs are they involved in? So I wanted everyone to have like a club. This one is kind of me brainstorming the different curriculums, and later what kind of spells from D&D would go into each one. Same with abilities, so you can kind of see these charts kind of detail certain abilities, and you know I guess what they do. So I spent a lot of time kind of like working on this, even though I don't play it. But like, it's just kind of like this is the kind of stuff that I would. I've probably said this in my videos before of how I would just kind of write down all these notes all the time, and then not share them. So I guess one of the big parts about creating a YouTube channel like this is just to, document that I've like, created some of this stuff, but I've never shared it before, and now this is me sharing it, I guess. Spells is another one. So this is all these spells are from D&D, and you can kind of see what spells you would learn by uh, going into certain, doing a certain curriculum. You would get this group of spells as you level up, and then you have your independent studies. So that's for people who like to be a little bit more creative. You can kind of build your own kit kind of thing as opposed to taking one of these predetermined ones. This is a long list of spells that I was just kind of using to document which spells kind of go into which area. So what I would kind of do is take all the spells in D&D and kind of like divvy them up, and this was kind of to help me track them evenly. As you can kind of see, these are like some of the older kind of notes I have listed under old, and this is me kind of trying to highlight which ones I've used as I kind of divvy them up. So there's like for each individual, um, I guess whatever you'd call that, the curriculum. some more kind of curriculum basics notes, and then just a long list of spells. Again, me trying to organize everything on one page before I split it up into these pages, and then kind of finalized it in this category. And then these are some kind of like higher level kind of spells. So let's say like the campaign was over and you were level 10 and you wanted to like keep going. These would kind of be like some extra kind of lore notes about which spells from D&D that were higher level would have gone into each of the corresponding schools. They don't teach these because they're like above your learning grade, but if you were to go into the real world and find like super high level people, they might know some of these spells, but it's not a requirement for graduating. If that makes sense. And then some other things about jobs. Um, just here, so listing all the different jobs, and it would be like how much income you'd make, what your job title was, and then prerequisite for kind of leveling up in the job. So you would start up as like a cleanup crew member, and then you could be a bookshelver, and then like maybe you work in the cafe at the library, and then like a store worker, and then a librarian assistant. So just kind of all these different things for all these different amenities on campus. Clubs are similar. They kind of give you certain proficiencies in certain areas. Add some rules up here, and then just kind of what kind of proficiencies you get by joining certain clubs. And then there were certain rules about like maintaining membership to keep those proficiencies. These were some exam rules, again based on the Strixhaven exam rules, and then some relationship kind of rules based on like befriending other students, or if you wanted to date other students. I kind of had some ideas for how to do that here. And your level in relationship would go from like stranger to best friend or to worst enemy, just depending on what you did, interacted with them. You could get friendship points, that kind of thing. So these were just some notes. I have like lists of other stuff, but I'm not going to go into those because we're kind of sticking with Manaheim Academy for this one. But and then another thing I kind of wanted to show you a bit was my game that I was making. So this is kind of like what my game was, and you can see there's like a lot of kind of events in this game. And pretty much the concept of the game would be that you're this new student coming to campus, and you'd go to orientation. So you'd kind of arrive there, and this guy would talk to you and tell you to go to um, the administration building. So this was kind of loosely inspired by, you can see my map right here. Where is it? This map right here. So you can kind of see there's like a little bit of resemblance with the administration building at the top, the library here. Um, Off camera, or you can kind of see these are the 4 dorms. There's some classrooms. Um, there's, if you go to the right, you obviously can't go and see this. This is kind of unfinished, but I kind of just use this kind of area to the right to like kind of plan. So you can kind of see, where is it? Let me close all these. So East Campus, this would kind of connect. So this is where the dual arena and the church would be. And then there's like some markets here. There's a beach area here. And so it was just this kind of, where is it? This game where you would you'd get introduced to campus, you'd go to the administration building, you'd meet students, you would take a quiz to figure out what house you belong in, you would pick your class, and pretty much just kind of go through this JRPG sort of game where you I don't think I mentioned this in this video, but one of the original concepts for this was that it would be similar to Pokemon in a sense that all 8 of the classes were an elemental type. So you would get like the fire degree, or you I think I called them badges in this just because it was based on Pokemon. It was a working title, but like your fire badge, you'd collect all 8 badges, and then you would go beat the Elite Four. And so there was like a certain professor for each elemental type, and then all the 4 house leaders or whatever were like the Elite Four, and then you'd have the uh, the professor headmaster guy who would be like the champion equivalent, like in Pokemon. So it was very just like this, and instead of collecting like Pokemon, you would just kind of recruit students to join your team, and you basically do like the elemental rock paper scissors kind of thing. So I had all these buildings. Like this was the admin building, and then you can kind of see like this is the auditorium building. I had this whole kind of thing for just the cutscene. This is all the quiz stuff for when you take your quiz to figure out what house you're in, and you get the end results. Um, you got these are the different hallways in the auditorium. You've got the library here, and the library was 8 floors, 7 floors, sorry. And you could do different things on each floor that had different kind of, um, you know, books just would teach you different things. You had your had bucks, which was kind of my play off of Starbucks. And the whole joke is that like you had bucks before you had the coffee because it's so expensive. And one of the students actually was the daughter of the owner of Had Bucks, so there was kind of like a little nod there. And there were all these mini games. So like one of the Hadbooks mini games would be like you have to you're instructed to make a certain student a certain type of coffee, and so there would be all these resources you'd collect in the game, and you had to make the certain student their favorite cup of coffee to get friendship with them. If you got a certain amount of friendship, you could befriend them. So there are all these different activities, and this was kind of inspired by the whole Fire Emblem Three Houses thing where you could befriend students. So this would be kind of randomized, but there would be like more intentional ways to befriend students, such as talking to them every now and then. Hopefully, I didn't create this in the actual product, but the working thing would be there would be like a reset timer of how often you could talk to them to get a boost to your friendship with them. Otherwise, you'd have to do these activities if you wanted to grind it a bit more. Or you could go buy them their favorite gifts and give them their favorite gifts, that kind of stuff. Similar with the Hadbucks, there was a dining hall where you do the same thing, but instead of making them a drink, you would make them food. So two different ways of doing that. So if you couldn't get all the ingredients for the drink, you could still try to do it with the food for the time being. And there was like a way to cancel out of that. But if you canceled out of it, then you'd lose friendship with that person. These are some of the different. So that was a test room, but I had like these different classrooms with these different little dungeons, and you had to like collect keys from the different creatures in the dungeon in order to unlock the doors to fight the main guy. So just some those kinds of things. These were like some of the dormitories. So you can recruit different students in these dormitories, and then each of the house professors had their own office. Uh, I had this. We were talking about East Campus. There was a duel arena place where you could duel against other students, watch duels. Another way to earn friendship with people and money and that kind of stuff. Some of the final dungeons. So this was kind of based off of the God Wars dungeon in Runescape, where you have to kind of like same with the the like where you would get the original like badge, I guess you could say, in the classroom. These are like you have to kill certain random encounters in these little areas and collect enough keys to go fight the main boss. And then when you collected all the boss keys, then you would go into the champion room, so to speak. So a little bit different than your typical Pokemon game, where instead of like just fighting them one after the other, you have to kind of collect these keys. And this was the main boss room. And then after you beat the boss, you beat the game essentially. Just some miscellaneous buildings, some miscellaneous areas. Just like East Campus, West Campus. I had a graveyard down here. There was like an area that would go into the sewer. These guys on the side are just cutscene related, so when you unlock certain events, you can go to these areas, and these guys will like transport over there and do like little fights with like zombies, and they'll be like, oh, if you kill a certain amount of zombies, then you can get these new rewards, that kind of stuff. So that would encourage you to go into the graveyard area to kill more zombies. Same with this place over here. There was like all these kappas, which are these kind of like duck people, and you could kill those guys too. And get more rewards from that way. There was like a little crypt puzzle where the staircase to go deeper into the crypt would change every single time you go in. It would be like a random generated thing, so you'd have to like fight these like skeletons in order to find the correct tomb every time you got in there. Just some like mini games, playing out with some stuff. There was some like shops for different item upgrades and stuff like that. South Campus, so this was the whole gardening kind of simulation I was kind of working on, where you could like collect certain ingredients for your dishes or your drinks. The Whimsy Wood, which was just another location where there would be like a little mini quest, and you could collect some different collectibles down in here. Just a lot of stuff. There was this whole kind of sewer area, so you can kind of see these sewer things with like more monsters and more drops and more like treasures. Um, and there was this like whole quest line I was gonna do with the ham, which are these. It was inspired by RuneScape again. In RuneScape, they're called the humans against monsters, but in this, I have them as like the humans against magic. So because it's a magic school, I like this concept of there being this party that's kind of like against magic. And so it's kind of this thing where like they have like a kind of relatable goal, like magic is dangerous and there should probably be more regulations for it, but just kind of this thing where like, they were doing it kind of in an overly aggressive way, similar to how bad teams in Team Rocket kind of sometimes have like understandable goals, but they kind of just go about it in like an extreme way. So just that kind of antagonist that would go along with you trying to collect your badges, I guess, to beat the game. And yeah, I think that was pretty much all that. And then eventually, for the post game, I had all these concepts of like these different other locations, these different islands and different cities where you could kind of go. Some of them are complete, some of them aren't, but just like these other places that would add to the game. So there's like the desert region, here's the ice kind of northern region, the spooky kind of region. So, just all these different other things that I was kind of working on as well. So, yeah, so the concept of Manaheim, this is kind of like the game aspect. Um, it's kind of still this thing that's kind of incomplete in my head, even though I have kind of posted this to itch. I can link that in the description just in case that's something that anyone wants to try out. Again, it's not a complete game, but at least you can kind of take the personality quiz that's on here if you're interested in that, and play test the game and see what it's about. But I finished this one in September 2021, so almost a year ago. I was working on this one. Then in 2020, I was working on a different kind of version. That was that dual arena version. I think you can see them both on that website. But yeah, lots of characters. And then lots of different classes. I was planning on making like all these different sub ones, but I have these ones to start. Lots of items, so you can kind of see how I'm kind of trying to organize them. Weapons that I was kind of working with, armor that I was kind of working with. These are different enemies that I was kind of working with. There's a lot of there's a lot of these like kind of gaps, mainly because in RPG Maker it's kind of hard to organize things if you have a very large scope on your project. So I was just kind of trying to create a lot of room for possible, incorporating different things. Also, while I was here, instead of doing types at one point, I was experimenting with like the 8 schools of D&D, where you've got your abjuration, conjuration, illusions, evocation, all that kind of stuff. So instead of doing the 8 types, I was thinking maybe this, but it was kind of weird because not all of them are like necessarily good combative things, and this is mostly a combat game, and I was kind of playing around with these ideas of each kind of badge area. Instead of it being like a consistent, you get these, you kill these certain things for different keys to unlock the boss room. I was playing around with these like large dungeon kind of things. So like one would be like for illusion, you had to kind of like sneak past all these kinds of traps, and then like the one of them was like you have to push boulders, like all that kind of stuff that you kind of see in like a normal like Pokemon game or something, but with like a D&D twist. But I kind of dropped that idea because it just felt like a very kind of half baked in some of the dungeons. So I thought keeping it consistent with the keys would be a lot easier for me, and a lot of people aren't really playing it probably anyway. So um, there's just kind of like getting the idea on paper. But yeah, these are just all the different things, all the different status conditions I was kind of playing with. These are different animations. Um, these are the typings of different things. So just like a lot of things, and I also used a lot of mods. You can kind of get these certain mods. So all the or plugins, I guess, and they're all kind of I bought them from Stella. So, if you're interested in doing this and you want to use, these kind of plugins for your games, if you want to program a game like this, I recommend Stella and buying their packs. They have some really good plugins to help improve your game. Um, but yeah, you can also in this kind of like make your own character kind of thing. So in some instances, you'll see like, I was making some of these. Where is it? So like you can kind of see, and here, right here, you got Tira. So I made the video on Tira. This is kind of like my envision of Tira for this game. So I've used that kind of picture a lot, and all these other ones. So I've got, I think, 66 students, and then I included some of my friends in the game as well, just for fun, just so kind of as a motivator to get them to play it. Oh, also, I guess while I'm here, sorry, this is a long video. There's this kind of thing you can kind of I know it doesn't really make sense here, but with one of the plugins, you can kind of like create like have each student be like a certain element type, and while it says gender and Crimson Tigers, it really is just means house, but just based on like the programming functions of these, you have to like type gender. That's why it's kind of a mess and a lot of spaghetti code using this for such a scope. But it was a fun process, and you learn a lot about the game design process, and um, yeah. So I don't know. I think this is probably a good enough video to talk about the Manheim Academy for now. It's super unorganized, but I just couldn't be bothered to make a script because there's just a lot of things to cover, and I think just showing it and like kind of walking it through is easier. So hopefully this, was enlightening. Um, until next time, I'll catch you later. Bye.